Hey, this is Anthony Meisner, and I wanted to bring you our Boulder County market update for the month of March. And this is a very interesting one because we've had so much more buyer demand right now than would have been expected because interest rates are still in the mid sixes, or well, at least today they are. And honestly, we just shouldn't have the amount of buyer demand we have if you look at what we experienced in fourth quarter. So good news is buyers have changed their behavior quite a bit, and it's actually created a kind of stagnation in the amount of inventory coming on the market because they're actually purchasing up the majority of what's going on the market. So in March, again, we had a pretty flat month for inventory. I wouldn't expect it to stay that way. I would expect it to rise going into the rest of the spring and summer months because it seems like every buyer that comes on the market is getting something under contract right now. Even if it is a seller's market, there's plenty of homes on the market finally, right? A year ago, we were at 111% less active units than we have today. So, but the good news is we're only down 9% in under contract numbers. So this, in my opinion, is a really positive sign for the marketplace, which is awesome. Now, if we go over here to our total active units on the marketplace, each one of the markets is not experiencing this the same way. Superior is only up 76% in active units on the marketplace. The Marshall fires did not help Superior in their market because, first of all, it just seems like it's a little bit less desirable than it was before. Tons of people have moved out to Lafayette and surrounding areas just because of all of that and what's going on. So there's less transactions taking place in the Superior market, and honestly, the appreciation is pretty well stagnated as well. But then you go into a place like Boulder, has lower inventory than most, but it also is just not turning over like it was before. But the appreciation is staying high because of that. Because people, if they don't like the price, they just aren't moving. You see that in more expensive markets. Get out to a place like Erie, inventories through the roof, sales are through the roof. And so all these different markets are acting very, very differently. But the big takeaway here is there's 600 units on the market. There's actually enough units to go transact. So if you're a buyer, great news for you. If you're a seller, this is still a strong seller's market. You can take a look at it here in month supply of inventory. Anything under 4 months of inventory is a seller's market. We're at 1.76 months of inventory, dramatically different than where we were a year ago. Lots more inventory, lots more competition, but still experiencing seller market behavior because it is a seller's market. There's not enough homes on the market for all these buyers out there shopping. And so things are turning over pretty rapidly. Now, how fast are they turning over? This is important to know as a buyer, right? So if you're working with buyers, days in MLS are trending down right now. They tend to do that all the way through May, June, sometimes even July, and then they will rise again. But what I would expect is we end up in that 20 to 30 range by the middle of the year. So things are going to speed up every month. So when you're helping your buyers understand what to do, they really need to shop early and often right now. Some places are going remarkably fast, like Louisville, 25 days average, or you could be in Superior with 64. Like I said, these markets are very, very different right now, and they're all changing in the same direction, just at different rates. So what about actives and solds by price range? Boulder County is the tale of three separate markets. We have our high-end luxury, ultra luxury market that's doing remarkably well, doesn't even seem to be fazed by anything that's going on. You have more $3+ million homes that sold this year than last year, right? Crazy things, but inventory is starting to stack up, right? So that's what's happening in the super high end. 1 to 2 million is really starting to slow down. And that's changing our composition of sales across the county. And I think that's largely due to the cost of money, right? If you have to take out a loan on a $2 million house or even a $1 million house, that payment can get really expensive when you're at 6% versus 3%. So that being said, that middle part of the market, that maybe upper income bracket, those homes are just not transacting as fast or as often, and they're starting to pile up. Now, anything under $1 million, it seems like this market is flying off the shelf as fast as they can, but they've still suffered a little bit compared to last year because of those interest rates, right? Because cost of money is so different. So three markets, right? Three separate markets, three separate market behaviors. Now, if you look at it from a month supply of inventory and days on market point of view, anything under $1 million, there's just not a lot of inventory out there, and they're transacting fast, right? 42 days on average. Now that 1 to 1.5 million range, you can see 87 days on market. So if you're listing homes in that price range, or if you're buying homes, you definitely need to really, it's home by home, right? I mean, you can see it at 1.5 to 2 million. There were way less homes than before, more inventory stacking up, but the ones that sold fast. Now you have some that are sitting a long time, and that's changing our averages like you would see in that 1 to 1.5 range at 87 days. The big difference here, I think, if you get into the ultra luxury or even just 3 million plus, not necessarily ultra luxury, but a lot of ultra luxuries in that price band, we have 8.5 months of inventory, lots of inventory in the market. It's a buyer's market, but they're turning over fast. So those newer homes to the market, if they're priced right, if they look good, they are actually moving relatively quickly. So they're changing in a hurry, which is always really helpful, right? I mean, it's good to know these things because you're going to have to reiterate them to your clients. This is our sold analysis. So what's selling, how much, how fast? It's very dynamically different from a year ago. But because those under contract numbers have not suffered as much as we would have expected, you have more solds coming on finally. Now, December might have had the worst amount of under contracts we've seen in a very long time. January was super slow for solds. February started to creep up, but March is off to the races and it looks good. So year to date is down 20 something percent, but honestly, it's going to pick up. I would expect the year to finish somewhere in the 10 to 15% down range. But the nice part is year over year in March, we're only down 13% in solds. So we're definitely seeing a lot of transacting. Over the last 12 months, though, the market has slowed. And you can see that on the slide, that TTM percentage change. That shows down in like a market like Boulder, 29% less sales than we saw over the course of the previous year. So there's a big shift in this market because of the cost of money and just because of the uncertainty coming in. The other thing though is like, look at Superior. It's only down 16% in total solds, or Erie. Like I said, more inventory meant more sales because as things got more expensive, where do you get the most bang for your buck in Boulder County? You move out towards Erie or Longmont, right? And Erie actually had more sales over the last 12 months. It's the only market. So definitely dive into those local markets when you need to if you're working with sellers. Now, the average sold price one, this is a hard one to talk about because in all reality, we need to use historical data. Thank goodness we have percentage change TTM because the TTM percentage change tells us how much has the tide risen, not gut reactions like year over year numbers where we show, we've lost 4% in value, right? I don't think the average home went down 4% in value because in the city of Boulder over the last 12 months, it went up 8.5%. So year over year, the composition of sales have really changed the average sales price, but I think it's really important to look long-term historical perspective. So is the tide rising? Are we still getting appreciation? Yes. Did people that bought in March, April, or May last year overpay for a home? Very possibly, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're in a bad position. It just means that the composition of sales have changed in our average sales price. So they're not down 4.5%, 5%. They could actually just be flat, and we don't necessarily know because that transaction change really has changed quite a bit. So if you have people that want that, you really just need to dive into it with them and talk to them about, what's going on in their neighborhood. Now, if we look at this one, I think this one is a really important one to articulate what's happening now, how are interest rates affecting the market, and then what are we going to see in the later half of the year. So obviously, we haven't had the solds that we had a year ago, right? But 3% interest rates to 6% or 7% interest rates have dramatically affected the buyer pool. That's allowed inventory to rise a little bit, but it's also really stifled our sales. Now, are we going to have an amazing spring? Sure. But what does amazing mean? Because it doesn't mean the same as last year. Last year was the most insane market we've ever seen, right? So those bidding wars were just out of control. And that just means way more homes turned over. Now, if we see 85 or 90% of those total sales, is that a good number? Yeah, I think that's an awesome number. But when you get into Q3, Q4, if interest rates start to come down, you could see a plateau at the end of the year, and you could see more buyers continuing to enter the marketplace because they've been holding off for better rates. And if that happens, then you could have a really amazing fourth quarter where we had the slowest fourth quarter we've seen in a very long time last year. Okay, last slide I wanted to talk about is this percentage sold price to list price. Last year we had bidding wars, right? This year we're hearing some about that, right? But last year you had 100 showings in a weekend and 7 offers or 12 offers or whatever, right? Crazy out of control over asking price. This year it really feels like a little bit more reasonable, right? Maybe you have 2 or 3 people competing for a house in those major price points like 600,000 to 800,000, right? And they're getting 100% listed sale price right now. April is going to be a little bit higher. It tends to trend up April through May, somewhere in there, maybe even June is the peak, and then it'll trend back down for the fall. We're entering a normalized market. Think pre-pandemic, think what you did when you started your career. Think what, things may have been like earlier in the 2015 era, right? Things were like, we have a slower winter, we have a busier spring and summer, and then it trends back down in the fall. So things could sit on the market in the fall time. Very possible. It happens a lot during seasonality, but that percentage sold price to list price is at its highest point in the spring market. So we're at almost 100% listed sale price. This is a very normal spring market, right? It's something we haven't seen in a long time, at least as far as the bidding wars are concerned. So we're short on inventory. We don't have quite enough buyers to fill all that need, so we're going to start to see rising inventory. And here you see we're not getting out of control with the bidding wars. Things are finally starting to cool down just a little bit, but it's still a really good environment to transact in. If you have any other questions, I'm Anthony with Land Title. Don't forget to reach out to me for other local insights you might need, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much. Have a great day.